At Neptune, we want to be the leading independent exploration and production company by meeting society's changing energy needs and creating value for all of our stakeholders. In just 2.5 years, we've built Neptune to be a resilient, low-cost, agile and innovative gas and oil producer, well positioned to support the energy transition. Now we are setting a new course, which we will commit to as a team. Our strategy. We have a unique combination of people, portfolio, partnerships, and technology that sets us apart. Our business model provides distinct competitive advantages, which can sustain performance through price cycles. We explore, taking decisive action on the most value-creating opportunities. We develop, moving at pace to bring reserves into production at a low cost. We produce safely and efficiently, maximizing economic recovery of supplies. Like all companies, we are influenced by factors outside our control. Economic recovery is unlikely to be smooth or predictable, and we can expect greater uncertainty in commodity markets. Carbon will be priced in the global economy, advantaging gas over other fossil fuels, and placing greater importance on hydrogen and CCS. And the shift in emphasis from stakeholders from what companies do to how they do it means ESG becomes a reason to choose rather than refuse. Therefore, we must be agile in how we work, offering an investment proposition that shows a differentiated portfolio, one that delivers strong returns. Our large-scale and geographically diverse portfolio makes us distinct. Not only do we spread risk, but we can access different commodity prices in different parts of the world. Our portfolio is long life, low cost and lower carbon, and we'll be producing into the 2030s and beyond. 72% of our production is gas, and we aim to maintain that balance. Gas will be a crucial part of the energy transition. We know switching from coal to gas for power generation reduces emissions significantly. Our business is supported by significant operating cash flows and a strong balance sheet, enabling us to invest in growth and maintain a low leverage ratio. To deliver our strategy, we will build on our core strengths, focusing on Europe, North Africa, and Asia Pacific. Regions we know well and are key for growth organically and through value-adding acquisitions. We'll maintain our diversified revenue from gas, oil and LNG. We are targeting a reserves to production ratio of more than 10 years, which provides the right outlook for investors. Operationally, we're targeting cost per BOE of less than $9 and lowering our break-even costs. While we have an industry-leading position already with 2/3 lower carbon intensity than our peers, we know we will need to work hard to maintain our targets. And we will build on our strong financial performance. We have a relentless focus on being safer, faster and better. And it is not about increasing in size, but instead enhancing all aspects of our business. Bigger is not always better. Better is better. And while financial value is key, our purpose goes beyond providing financial returns. It is not just about what we do, but how we do it. To work the Neptune way, we must be entrepreneurial in our approach. We won't change for the sake of it, but make changes to improve and deliver most value. We must be able to adapt, take ownership and be ambitious to succeed. An equal, diverse and inclusive workplace is critical to our success, as is the health and well-being of our people. This is our strategy. Neptune Energy. Safer, faster, better.
Hello, I'm so sorry, everybody, if you can hear me. I'm just going to switch to my phone.
Okay, Janet, it's clear.
Ah,
It's okay.
I can hear you now. Rachana.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Wait. Hi, everyone. I hope you all hear my voice clearly. Yeah. Welcome to Talk Show Energy Transition from Women Leaders Perspective by NRK in collaboration with Knowledge Insight Skill Sharing by Neptune Energy to commemorate Kartini's Day 21 April 2022. First, let me introduce myself. My name is Ratna and I'm from NRK. I became Master of Ceremony this event today. Thank you for our honorable moderator, Mbak Yunita Dia, and honorable speaker, Janet, for the time and the availability to sharing knowledge and experience as a woman in energy industry with us. In this talk show, we are going to talk about women leaders' views on the energy industry and the energy transition condition. And our speaker will give advice to female students and young professionals to face this energy era and other topics that will be guided by our moderators. I would like to deliver the agenda in this event today. First is opening and NRK introduction. Second is opening speech by Neptune Energy. The third is moderator introduction. The fourth remark is speaker introduction. The fifth is talk show and discuss about the topics. And the last is closing by moderator. Okay, now we are going to the first agenda, NRK introduction. This introduction will be delivered by me as project manager of NRK. So I'm sure that you are guys familiar enough with NRK, but let me give some information to you about NRK. NRK is an education energy company that active conducting various programs in energy education, such as NR Class, Training NR Light, Webinar NR Show, Research Club NR Club, and Training Intensive Program NR Camp. We realize that all educational background can be it will become a bridge between professional in the energy sector and anyone who wants to be involved in this energy industry. NRK also open for all organization or company who wants to collaborate with us to create an education event or program. Because one of NRK vision is to improve the human competencies in Indonesia energy project. Our main program is nrclass.com, a web-based platform providing education focusing on topics relating to energy industry. And also many programs in NRK that you can find to add more insight about NRK program and event. You can catch us on our website at www.nrclass.com, and I highly recommend you all to follow social media of NRK at LinkedIn, Instagram, and YouTube. And do not miss the NRK updates for our event. Maybe that's a little information about NRK. So we are going to move to the next agenda. Opening speech by Bapak Eko Lumadio as a Managing Director Asia Pacific Neptune Energy. Halo Pak Eko.
Selamat siang, selamat pagi.
Selamat siang, selamat pagi Pak.
Okay. Selamat datang semuanya dalam peringatan Hari Kartini dengan Neptune dan berkolaborasi dengan NRK. So welcome everyone. So let me take the opportunity to introduce who we are first. I think you see it from the video, but in summary, Neptune Energy is an independent exploration and production company with focus to meet the society's changing energy needs while still creating the value for our stakeholders. Our business expands in many different countries. In the European areas, we have Norway, UK, the Netherlands, Germany, and also in the North Africa, we have operation in Algeria and Egypt, and in this part of the world, Indonesia and Australia. in the context of today's Kartini celebration, we're actively promoting equality, diversity, and inclusion in the way we work together in the company. So today we are very fortunate to have Janet Hann, my colleague from Australia, to share her insight as a female leader in the industry. Today is actually a public holiday in Australia, so I really appreciate Janet for being available to speak into this event. So I hope everyone enjoyed the session, and I hope our event will help energize everyone in meeting their individual dream for the future. So back to you, Ayu. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Pak Eko, untuk opening speech-nya, dan and we are going to move to the next agenda ya. Moderator introduction by Mbak Yunita Diah. Here is moderator profile of Mbak Yunita Diah. Mbak Yunita Diah is one of the women who has involved in energy industry for more 10 years experience as shown in the profile. She involved in BP, EMP, Inpex, and Premier Oil, a harbor energy company. She is alumni of Petroleum Engineering Institute Teknologi Bandung, and now she is a senior production engineer at Premier Oil, a harbor energy company. Maybe we will say hi first to Mbak Yunita. Hai Mbak Yunita, apa kabar?
Hai, baik. Apa kabar now?
Alhamdulillah baik. I hope you in a good condition ya Mbak and ready for this amazing talk show.
Sama-sama. Always good to meet you, Ratna. Okay, so thank you, Ratna and NRK team. Many things can bring you down, but the only thing can really bring you down is your own attitude. That is one of the most favorite quotes from Kartini, which can be applied at any aspect of life at any time and space. So in the celebration of Kartini's Day to this event, it's such an honor for me to be part of the talk show with Janet Hann as a guest speaker, and also highly gratitude to Neptune Indonesia team and also NRK for organizing this event, and of course for the participants. Okay, so before we move further, let me introduce our special guest. Who is this? Can you move to the CV? Ratna, please. Okay, can you please more? Thank you. Okay, so our speaker's profile. Janet Hann is the Managing Director of Neptune Energy Australia. She owns a Bachelor of Science degree of Offshore Engineering from the Heriot-Watt University. And during her career, she was part of various well-known oil and gas energy companies such as BP, Apache Energy, OMV, Santos, Woodside Energy, Origin, and up to now is Neptune Energy. So, now, without further ado, let's watch and hear the presentation. So, Janet, the floor is yours now.
Hi, and I'm struggling because it's best to use my phone. I'm working from home, so if Adrian will help me with the slide. So I'm very honored to be a speaker today on Kartini Day, and of course I read a lot about her, and it's pretty amazing to see such a young woman try so hard to improve education. I gather she was only 25 years old when she passed away, and presumably shortly after giving birth to a child. So it probably reminds us all how far we've come in terms of, you know, mortality for women, particularly these days. But I thought it would be interesting just to share with people in Indonesia that we have a bit of a hero ourselves, and that's a lady called Edith Cowan. So if you can go to the next slide. So Edith Cowan lived in the same time as Kartini. Actually, she didn't come from a very high social background at all. And it's strange to think, I think her father was hanged for killing her stepmother. So I think there was a lot of troubles with, you know, abuse, and, you know, the WA was a very, you know, backwards mining state in the 1900s. But Edith has the distinction of being the first lady being elected to Parliament, I think, anywhere in the world, the WA Parliament. So she stood for, you know, women's values and also education. So there is now Edith Cowan University in Perth, which is very popular for nursing, teaching, and other sciences, and drama and arts. I think fair to say, though, historically, most of the professions followed by women. So to go to my first point, I think you had a question in the moderation questions, what inspired me to join the energy industry? And I think, to be honest, I didn't think of oil and gas as energy. I was lucky enough to graduate in Scotland at the boom, if you like, of the North Sea, where there was this step change in technology where people were building large platforms, you know, concrete gravity platforms, big complexes, a lot of construction work, and a whole bunch of, new ways of working. So it caused me to reflect a little bit, because I was lucky enough as a child, because my father was a civil engineer, I got to go to site. But when people talk of, and visit construction sites, so I had an awareness. So something I did want to share with other female professionals is you must take opportunities to go to schools and to these sorts of talks to share. So many girls would grow up without knowing that there's science and technology and energy as a profession. But my father, in the 1950s, used to go whaling in the Antarctic. And when I did a bit more research on that, it's a fact that the whale industry was the first industry established in Australia, because when they brought the first fleet, which were the convicts from England, there was nothing. There was no agriculture. There was no timber even. So the first fleeters went out and caught whales. And of course, they were using them for lubricating oil, lamp oil. So we went through this transition, if you like, from solid fuels to liquids. And now we're definitely on the gas journey. And I love that saying by Cardini, after a pitch dark night comes a beautiful morning. But whenever I look at this map of the world at night, you can see the highly developed countries. And it always reminds me that there's close to 1 billion people still living in what we would call energy poverty. No access to clean fuels, no access to light. And that, of course, has a tremendous negative impact on women, because the women are usually charged with collecting the fuel, cooking the food, living in smoky environments, and dying of very young ages. So I would still say getting energy to that 1 billion people is a very important mission that we all share. So maybe if we go to the next slide. Sorry, can I go to the next slide? Oh, thank you. Yeah, so that's just a picture from some from Africa and some from India. I think the exciting thing about some of the new energy developments is that they can reach the poorer countries more easily. So I am aware that in India there's been a big move to solar, and that's of course a more easy way of getting energy to the remote areas. And then if we go to the next slide and just talk a little bit about Australia and the renewables. Sorry, Adrian. So for us, most of our population lives around the coast. And of course, we have a huge advantage that we certainly have solar, and we can make green hydrogen. The problem is, most of the places where we could make that energy, there is no real demand. So now the Australian government is turning its thoughts in terms of how to make hydrogen hubs near the port. So those areas in red are all the coastal areas. The Pilbara to the north is where most of our gas is exported from, and our iron ore. So there's a huge amount of shipping. So there's a move there to make a sort of green energy hub, and principally to make green hydrogen, green ammonia, and even LNG bunkering to clean up the shipping fuels. And then you see further down the coast and around South Australia, there are the big port facilities which will, manage, if you like. So for Australia, because we have such a small population relative to Asia, it's all about producing energy that can be transported to the markets in Asia Pacific. But I love this little story about Mali. You know, there they drilled a water well and accidentally discovered green hydrogen. So this whole town is running on hydrogen that is being produced from one well. And in Australia now, there are natural hydrogen permits, mostly concentrated in South Australia. So I think there's one more slide. Yeah, so just a quick word to end my very short talk on. So today is Anzac Day, and of course, mostly in Australia, people remember Gallipoli, which was the day that the Australian forces landed on the beach under the command of the British Army. But it was a very unsuccessful campaign, but it was really the start of Australia saying that they really wanted independence from British command, because they were sort of seen as sacrificial troops, you know. But I think a nicer story is about Villers-Bretonneux, where Australian troops, freed the town from German capture. And after the war, the Australians in Victoria clubbed together money and sent money to rebuild the school in the town of Villers-Bretonneux, and that's commemorated on the same day as Anzac Day, just to give you a little bit of colour. Now, I've skipped over a few of the questions that were there, but I'll hand back to you, Unita, to talk a little bit more about energy transition and ask any other questions.
Yeah, thanks, Janet, for the explanation, and happy Anzac Day. It's today, right? And just to commenting about the hydrogen resources in Australia and comparing to Indonesia. Actually, after doing some mini research, we don't have any hydrogen yet here in Indonesia. So yes, to start with, Indonesia is obviously a big tropical archipelagic country, which consists of 76% of area coverage with water. And by tectonical settings, we are at the lies on the Pacific Ring of Fire that has the string of volcanoes from west to the eastern of Indonesia. So based on that general properties of Indonesia, obviously again, Indonesia has been using the renewable energy plants since the 1920s. As the earliest of that, we started with the hydroelectric power plant, and followed by the geothermal power plant in early 1980s. And to mention is we got Kamojang as the initial one. Then in year 2015 and 2016, there is a Paris Agreement, as I'm sure you already have heard all about this, all the participants hopefully, that agreement sets out a global framework to avoid dangerous climate change by limiting global warming to well below 2 degrees Celsius and pursuing efforts to limit it to 1.5 degrees Celsius. And that was one of the big turning points globally, where many countries are dealing with the impacts of climate change and support them in many aspects. Then after the Paris Agreement, some of the new renewable energy plants in Indonesia start to flowering. We call it like in the geothermal side, we have new and quite quick utilization from Sarula and also Karaha. Then we also have new power installed is the wind power plant in Sulawesi. We got 2 sites with several units in there. And the third one is we got solar power plant, several solar power plant in the eastern of Indonesia. And the ministerial regulation in 2021 has the new solar rooftop project to be implemented in the industrial and also the home-based area. That government plan to set the target to have 3.6 gigawatt by 2025, energy from solar photovoltaic itself. So I guess it's good that based on the government, we have the plan. So hopefully it gets there to be greener and to support the transition of the clean energy in Indonesia. And let's see how it's going to be implemented for the next years until 2025 and 2030. However, we still cannot deny that in Indonesia, the energy generated from geothermal, wind, and solar cannot beat the electrical steam power plant that comes from the coal. Up to now, we still have the coal or the electric steam power plant 60 to 70% of the total energy source in Indonesia. Yeah, but well, in that case, I can see that Indonesia will require more renewable energy plant to build. So it's good news for us, right? So I can see this is going to be a good business opportunity. It is going to be a long-term and sustainable business. So hopefully we'll get there. Yay. Okay, so that's from my opinion. I'm not the expert in renewable energies, but however. Now let's go dig more knowledge from Janet Hann. So Janet, we've got some questions that we are curious about that is not only related to the green energy transition, but also about you yourself being a successful career woman. So yes, in the earlier you mentioned about how you have your inspiration for doing into the energy sector. Can you just tell us why you choose offshore engineering? Why make you choose that one? It's really unique for a woman, actually.
Well, as I said, I think I was lucky in that because I grew up with my father, who was a civil engineer, and he was largely working in Africa and on port projects, and even at Bandar Abbas in Iran. So I had that sort of exposure to the marine environment. And so I just thought, oh, well, if they're going to build platforms offshore, that would be more and pipelines and subsea equipment, it was just a bit different. But to be honest with you, I think always I chose things that I felt would be interesting and I could be passionate about. And that's what I would encourage other people to think about. I will share with the audience that my father thought that I should be a lawyer or a doctor or some other profession. But I just loved the idea that I would be able to work outdoors and get, my hands on things. But to be honest, I'm not that practical a person. I just wanted the freedom and the adventure, I think, of that career path. It is quite difficult to combine it with a family. And certainly in the 80s, when my children were born, there weren't automatic maternity rights. You had to have worked for one employer for a certain amount of time. But one thing I would say, I joined BP and I actually was trained as a petroleum engineer. So I didn't go and build big offshore things. But in the early 90s, when I joined Apache had no offshore facilities overseas. And so when they selected project managers, they just picked people that were busy. They just liked a busy person. And I was the busiest person in the office. So I got the biggest job, which was to be the project manager of a field called Stag, which is still producing now. It was a heavy oil, but not a heavy, it's a viscous oil. It's actually quite unusual oil, and it's very valuable now because it burns as low sulfur crude oil. But anyway, it needed electric submersible pumps. And I suppose for me, what I loved about my engineering career was not so much what I did myself, but by bringing teams of people together and then combining all the disciplines and coming up with innovative solutions that were, already understood by people, but they wouldn't have thought of them if they weren't put together in a really trusting team environment. So for me, that was the most exciting, or the thing I'm proudest of most, is creating teams that come together and do things that other people don't think is possible. But we can. But by that, I'm not saying, we're inventing new things. We're combining existing technology in innovative ways and creating, so the thing about the Stag field was it set a new benchmark for the size of oil fields that were considered economic off the coast of Western Australia.
Yeah, that's interesting. So the bottom line is that you have really passionate on the engineering itself. You like to be adventurous, and also you have, you want to have to bring things together with innovative solution. I think that's the main core for the engineering, yeah, troubleshooting and problem solving, I guess. That's cool, Janet. Okay, and next question. How would you see Asia Pacific, especially in Indonesia and Australia, in terms of energy transition in the next 10 years?
Well, I'm glad that question's on the table, because I do still believe, as gas producers, and particularly Australia and Indonesia producing LNG, it's a very vital part of the transition. And I think there have been several podcasts and news articles prepared by Sam Laidlaw, our executive chairman. But, the idea that we switch off reliable power and then go for all renewable is quite dangerous. Here in Australia, we had an incident in South Australia where the wind was down, the solar was down. I think there was a storm, and all the wind power went out, and they had no gas contracts and no ability to fire up the gas fired power station, and it cost the economy a huge amount. And I was touched because I heard our resources minister from Australia defending why Australia is still exporting coal to the Ukraine. When you think that, of course, they've lost their nuclear power stations, are completely controlled now by the Russians, and it's -6 degrees. So it's, I think we've got to manage the transition carefully. And I think, by supporting the LNG and then allowing, progressively cleaner gases to support Asia Pacific, because it won't just happen in one step, I think. And a few economies have discovered that to their cost.
Okay, so I can see that in the next 10 years, maybe we're just in a transition of the green energy. But do you have any relation to the COVID-19 affected the energy transition outlook for the last 2 years? Like project delay or something?
So I must admit, here in Australia, because of the tight borders, our resources sector kept going. But I think that the initiative to invest big amounts of capital has definitely slowed down. And one of the big issues for renewable is it has a higher upfront cost, lower operating cost, because there's no fuel. But I think there was a slowdown globally as people just did what they had to do to survive the pandemic. So my sense is it's sort of slowed down. And certainly, I would bravely fess up to the fact that I would think Australia worked hard to protect its economy at the cost of transition. Do you know, if you hear what I'm saying? But then, I think a lot of countries were in the same position where, they had to reprioritize surviving I think the bigger impact now, of course, is the Ukraine. And I think, it's two disasters colliding on top of each other. And I guess we feel pretty remote from that here in terms of energy pricing. But I guess the rest of the world is feeling that as the costs go up again. So, it's still very hard, I think, to support major capital investments against the backdrop of this much uncertainty.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So yeah, if comparing with Indonesian's condition as well as my company, we also have struggling during the pandemic the last 2 years. So I guess all of the world having the same problem, right, Janet? Yeah. Okay, and so relating to the previous question from me, like, okay, maybe in the next 10 years, we're still in a transition to the clean energy. So what do you think the key enabler for the energy transition in the Asia Pacific? And I also want to know your opinion about our outlook in the next 10 years, and when will you think Asia Pacific can establish for the full green energy? Well, I believe also we still need to have the backup for the gas to get there, but in your opinion, what here?
So I think we can make a lot. So one thing that we all have we have in common in Australia and Indonesia is that we can, if we continue to produce some fossil fuels, focus a little bit more on carbon capture and storage. We have the knowledge and the expertise for that technology. And maybe in Australia, at the moment, we have some projects, they're very expensive. One of them is offshore. If we can get more viable onshore carbon and capture and storage, that could get us more to net zero, not to renewable energy, but at least help with the emissions target while we work. I think the big thing, and it may all happen faster than we think, is the conversion to hydrogen and green ammonia as liquid fuels to support, cleaning up cars, power in Asia Pacific. So I think it's 10 years seems to me quite a short time when I'm my age, but I think things go exponentially, so maybe in the next 3 or 4 years we'll be slower, but then we could see a dramatic change in the next 10 years after that. So in the 15-year window, getting to that sort of 2035, we will be, I think, really successful on the at least eliminating the emissions.
Okay, so hopefully we are all as per plan. Yeah, right. Yeah, because also Indonesia, we are also facing about the cost and also the coal and stuff. We don't have the hydrogen, and we also face by the the small energy capacity if we have the solar compared to coal and so on. So hopefully it's all smoother. Yeah. So in Neptune energy, what role could Neptune play in an energy transition?
Well, I think that because we're a smaller and more nimble organization, and I don't know, you need to possibly a bit smaller now than Enterprise Harbour Energy, but we it's the skill sets that we have. And we have a couple of projects, particularly in the Netherlands, one that's a hydrogen project and one that's carbon capture and storage. So it's about, using the knowledge that we have for offshore facilities, depleted reservoirs, and getting those projects underway quickly. And I'm sure that, obviously all of the companies have a lot of sustainable targets, but if the projects are very expensive, it takes quite a lot of governance to get the projects approved, and it may be that the path will be led by the more nimble organizations.
Okay. So just out of my curiosity, so you mentioned that Neptune play in the carbon capture and storage, also hydrogen. How about the other renewable energy like solar or the wind? Will Neptune energy will get into there or focus on the carbon capture, storage, and hydrogen?
Yeah. I think it's a bit early to say. Maybe interesting Echo's perspective on this if he's still on the call, but I think that our philosophy is to focus on the areas that we know I think if we ended up acquiring a business where there was a natural synergy with solar, but we wouldn't probably step out to make that our main game until, until there was a real business driver for it. I think the idea is to stay within the orbit that we already understand.
Okay. So yeah, so for participant who is still in TOS, want to take for the graduate a study, you can be focused on the hydrogen and also about the carbon capture and storage, because yeah, a lot of energy company will be focusing on that one. This keep be noted, yeah, dear participants. Okay. So you mentioned about the hydrogen and also green ammonia in Australia. So any other examples for green energy technology application in Australia other than that?
We certainly have quite a lot of wind farms over east. They seem to be a lot less popular than the solar farms, and I think that's just because of the visual impact and noise, and of course they're located closer to population centers who can use the energy. So wind hasn't been as big, but I think as more and more wind farms offshore are successful in the North Sea, it's inevitable that there will be, opportunities. But I think Australia, because of the sunshine, the close, the availability, if you like, of water from, which we can desalinate using solar power and then do, the electrolysis to make hydrogen and ammonia, it's still a more viable option for us because we can then make enough to use ourselves and still export. Sorry, I'm got a pet and a child in the background. All these challenges from working from home, but
Hello, Janet. Ratna, copy Ratna.
Yeah, I just went on mute because I had a little barking in the background. So.
Okay. Okay. Just a second. Sorry if I keep just a bit, yeah.
Our Kartini, yeah.
Kartini days, actually, yeah. Okay. So we're approaching to some end of questions. So this is important. Do you have any advice for female students and young professionals?
Yeah, I have to be careful. Yeah, can you hear me? I have to be careful because I think I would always say, follow your dreams. Don't be too influenced by other people. But of course, I think probably the biggest problem facing, why there are so few numbers of females doing science, technology type courses is to do with the fact that women just aren't aware of what the professions can give them. They're a little bit put off. So my advice, certainly for students who've already committed, is to sort of share the experience with younger girls who are still at school or sisters or friends. And but I think overall, to sort of not be told by anybody that you can or you can't do anything. Anything, I think, is possible these days for women. And I think, though, you want to do something that you're passionate about. So, don't be forced into it if it's not for you. But I think you shouldn't be intimidated either. And my other piece of advice is, ever since I started my career, sometimes I was given jobs that were not very exciting, and I would do them well, but I'd always look for those opportunities to do something a bit more value add, like to go beyond what I was being asked for and just set higher expectations, of myself. So, you know, if there was a project and I was given the little role, I'd try and be as helpful as I could and get more scope. You know, I don't know if that answers the question. Don't be put in a box.
Sure. Yeah, but the thing that I have bold on and underlined from your statement is that we should, at young, follow your dream and be passionate about what you like. Is that it, Janet? Okay. Sorry, just a second. I want to close my door. Just a Yeah, I'm back. Yeah. Okay, I guess we're approaching 12 o'clock. Now I'm open for some questions from the participants. Anyone want to ask to Janet related to the anything? Energy transition, about the career, or advice? Just please raise your hand. Ratna, ada yang tanya. Mbak Julie. Silakan, Mbak Julie.
Yeah. So Janet, thank you. That's interesting conversation that we have. Interesting piece from you. So I would like to ask you, what are you most proud in life?
Sorry, you said what most proud of? Sorry, I just missed the question. With
what are you most proud of in life?
It's always a difficult one because as a woman, you know, you want to talk about family and my relationships with my family. I'm obviously very proud of them, and the support I've had from my husband has kept us together as a family, which is challenging these days, you know. But I think the fact that I've really enjoyed the work I do, and with that I can contribute both to, you know, Australian economy, but also to the well-being of my household and the family, and the fact that I still love what I do. Because I know so many people that I meet at my age who just got fed up and wanted to retire, you know, where I still love what I do. But I'm proud, I think, of the fact that my husband and I immigrated to Australia. That was a big step. And I'm proud that we did it because it opened up so many new opportunities for me and my husband and the family. And that was also a big adventure.
Nice. Yeah. Thanks, Janet.
Oh, okay, Janet. I actually have one question to you out of my curiosity. How about in Australia? When is the first time that the renewable energy started to shift it from the fossil energy? I mean, I just want to sense the transition. Is that long or just a quite long time ago in Australia?
I would say sort of, it's hard. I think there were people quietly getting, in WA, you know, it's probably not well understood, but rooftop solar has been on the go for 20 years, you know, it's been, and there's been progressive programs there. But I think that the green activism, which has sort of pushed renewables over, I think is probably maybe 15 years old, you know, and progressively more intense. So, you know, and it varies state by state. I'm sorry, that's Noah Rooster contributing to the discussion. No, so it's I think, again, you know, it's almost like an exponential thing. Low-key solar projects, wind projects have been around for at least 20 to 15 years. But then I think the whole green activism has pushed some states like South Australia to more rapidly expand into total renewable. And then they're the ones that have had the incidents where their power isn't seen as reliable, and then the industry's gone into recession. So you know, it's different around the country.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Janet. So anyone on the floor wants to ask question? I guess we still have 1 to 2 more questions. And by Julie, thanks beforehand for the questions. Yes, please raise your hand. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. There you go. That's Cedric, the rooster. Just in case you wondered.
Say hi, yeah? Say hi to the rooster. So anyone wants to ask, just raise your hand. Okay, so I actually still have several questions to you, Janet, if you don't mind.
No, I don't.
Can you mention what does this accomplishment during your life means to you? Is it what you really wanted to have in your life? All of the accomplishment you have in some of the oil company?
Well, again, I feel most of it are team-driven things. You know, obviously, the things that mean the most to me are ones where, you know, I've been working with a project team and we've got something really special done. But it's the same sort of applies to my family. You know, the fact that, you know, together we've been able to build up a bit of property, and we've, you know, my parents are also in Australia, my sister and my brother. So they're all sort of bringing together people, which, you know, I am very proud of, and it means a lot to me that I get the support from them, but also that I can support them. I feel as I get older, I'd like to do a bit more charity work. You know, there are organizations here that support projects in Africa and other.
Janet? Ratna di kopi nak?
Kopi, Mbak, Janet lost connection ya? Kayaknya. Iya.
Lost connection.
Can you still hear me?
Oh yeah, now clear, Janet.
Okay, great.
Okay, so I guess one more question to go. So if your life were exclusively oriented around your values, what would that be like? What are those values?
I saw that question from Juliana, and thank you very much. It really does make you think. So for me, values, I think, are, you know, like reliability, you know, honesty, integrity are all very important. And I think you can't really be successful, like I did a lot of projects for these companies, if I couldn't, you know, embody those values, integrity particularly, because you're relying on a lot of people contributing to the project, contractors and other, you know, suppliers and people taking risks to support the project. So integrity is right up there. But I also think, in my case, trust, if you can call that a value, you know, building trust and trusting people. And I often compare, you know, some of the bigger companies where the leadership is very much, I call it alpha male, you know, where people and the guys will say, oh, you have to earn my trust before I trust you. I don't really relate to that very well, because I feel you can't exceed people's performance expectation unless they give you a bit of room. Do you know what I mean? You need trust so you can do a better job or do more. So for me, if I had a chance to do it again, it would be more integrity, role modeling it, and more trust, building of trust.
Yeah. I agree with you, Janet. Those are the three crucials for the base of relationship between the team player, horizontally and vertically. Yeah. Okay. I guess that's all the questions from me and the team. I'll give a chance once more to the audience for one more questions. Nah, ada yang raise hand nggak, Nak? Aku nggak bisa ngeliat.
Sejauh ini belum ada, Mbak Yunita. Mungkin kita tunggu 1-2 menit mungkin untuk teman-teman mungkin mengkoleksi pertanyaan dulu nih dari teman-teman.
Yuk, mengkoreksi pertanyaan dulu ya.
Ini ada yang raise hand, silahkan.
Hello, my name is Hedy. I just came late to this seminar because I had another appointment with my friends. I have a question for Janet. Is there any advancement to allow people, especially in Australia and Indonesia, that from your perspective, that they are willing to promote green energy so far? What do you think about that?
Oh yes, there's certainly renewable energy sort of incentive schemes across all of the states. The effectiveness varies a lot. So depending on how regulated the industry is. So in Western Australia, for example, we really only have one distribution company. So it's quite hard for renewable energies to get into the grid in a competitive way. But certainly in the eastern states, there are, subsidies and grants and things.
Okay, talking about the percentage of the using of renewable energy, how many percent do you think in Australia that the green energy has been used so far? Percentage.
Oh, I have to be very careful because I did look up Indonesia and I didn't.
Yeah, so we are still
in Australia is very similar.
Probably we are still in 6% of the.
Oh no, so maybe
of the,
yeah,
of the
10
renewable
to 15
energy so far. Yeah. So what about in Australia?
So I think
what is the percentage?
Yeah. Now I'm going to get very caught out because I don't know. We have an election coming, and one of the leader of the opposition said some real rubbish numbers. So I hope I don't make the same mistake. But okay. I think we're about 10 to 15%.
Okay.
Not very much. There's a wonderful graph I have. So remember that, our so the biggest energy demand in Australia is in the eastern states, where maybe 80% of the population lives, and they still, and there's still a lot of coal, and certainly a lot of gas. Then you move to South Australia, where they're more like 50 or 60% renewable. So it varies across the country, and it's really a function of, in Victoria, which was the hotbed of manufacturing, cheap power came from gas from the Bass Strait because Esso was producing a lot of oil, so gas and coal. And then you move, to the less populated states and there's more diversification. But I'd be surprised if we're doing better than between 10 and 15% at the moment.
Okay, so because the people now is willing to promote the not renewable energy, but they are still willing to produce more fossil energy, I think. So that's why we have to change their mind to be aware with, nowadays disasters or the other disasters that caused by the fossil energy, right? So that's why we have to make more campaign to all of the people on the globe that, hey guys, you guys are supposed to be using renewable energy.
So I think there's a very big movement in Australia towards clean energy. I think that the factors that sort of hold us back is just the very thin population, so widespread, and the fact that, and we are moving, I think, a lot as as I mentioned, probably from an emissions point of view, because we export so much iron ore, coal, and gas.
Okay. Are you still there, Janet? You are lost.
Janet?
Are you still with us?
Vehicles, electrified trains is all happening very quickly.
Okay.
You know, and lithium, of course, is a product that we'll mine here in Australia. So batteries, cars, solar are all in a rapid increase.
Okay, great. This is good. Okay, thanks a lot, Janet. I'm Hedi from Jakarta.
Okay. So it's really good question, I think, for the closing question from Hedi, from Pak Hedi. Can you speak Indonesian?
Sedikit sekali bicara.
Oh, sedikit sekali. Okay, so.
Saya orang Indonesia tapi bisa bicara seperti orang bule.
Oh gitu.
Saya orang Jawa. Aku wong Jawa, Mbak.
Siap-siap kirain tuh orang bule.
Iya.
Okay, so yeah.
Kenal dengan ibu siapa tadi saya terlambat? Ibu siapa?
Mbak ya, Mbak Yunita.
Ya. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So yeah, I guess we're at the end of the talk show and Q&A session. Let me wrap just a bit. You know, firstly, the disclaimer, I'm not expert in renewable energies, but I did do some research and discussion with friends who is into the renewable energy in current situation. So it's really interesting topics around the globe. So some of the key message here, not that so much. I can see the movement. Yeah, I can see the movement since the Paris Agreement happened in the Asia Pacific and globally. Yeah. Although it's not that rapid progress, but we have increasing trend to have the awareness of the renewable energy. So to mention, like in Indonesia, we have geothermal, additional geothermal power plant, wind power plant, and also some solar project across Indonesia, Eastern Indonesia, and supported by the government. And if comparing with the Australia, that also applied the renewable energy technology since 15 to 20 years ago, they got hydrocarbon, ammonia, green ammonia, solar, and the wind. But in terms to support the backup energy during this energy transition, we still required fossil energy, but the cleaner one. Yeah, the cleaner version is the gas energy, because as mentioned by Janet before, that there was some disastrous event when some unwanted things, you know, the power plant, solar, wind, and hydrogen is going down, and there is no backup of energy. It was like disastrous. So we still need to have the backup energy until we have fully converted into the green energy. Hopefully we'll get there. And in terms of the advice for the young people, yeah, I believe there are a lot of students here in this participant. Is it right, Ratna? A lot of students?
Yes.
Yes, and young professionals. The important thing is first, follow your dream and be patient of what you're doing. And if we refer to Janet, she is really adventurous and very innovative in adding some more values. Yeah, adding all more values. And when you get into the professional career, don't forget to have your good reliability, integrity, and building trust to others. So that will have to enhance your career and also your intern enhancement. So just remember that that values from Janet. Okay, so I guess that's the very simple key message from our talk show today. If Ratna, you want to continue, yeah, to close the event?
Maybe from Mbak Yunita, okay, Mbak, to lead us to the next session, documentation.
Oh, kamu
Ya.
aja Ratna, aku.
Okay,
So yeah,
thank you.
Yeah, so of course, I think,
videonya
yeah, I
nggak bisa.
think all the participants and of course Janet and all of the people from Neptune Energy, Ardian, Mbak Julie, Pak Eko, yeah, and all of the Energy team. Thank you so much. And over to you,
And
Ratna.
thank you. And thank you so
Julie.
much for inviting me and listening to me. Thank you so much for the
Thank you.
invitation.
Thanks,
Thank
Janet.
you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks,
you,
Janet. Thanks everybody there. And have a good day, right?
We'll have a picture first.
Yes,
Yeah.
of course,
So,
Mbak Julia.
I don't understand why I cannot open my video, so I cannot be pictured. I cannot be shot.
Yeah, okay, that's okay then. For you that can open your video camera.
I cannot. I can't. In Australian, I can't. In American, I can't.
Okay, before we close
Very good.
this
You can paste
event,
me
maybe
in.
we documentation first ya, Mbak Juliana, Mbak Yunita, Janet, Mas Ardian, and participants. So please open
No,
your.
I can open now. Okay, it's okay.
We are going to take a documentation session. Oh my God, thank you for Janet, for our best speaker today, and this amazing talk show with Mbak Yunita Dia. And thank you for the participants until now. And maybe we will wait until 1 minute again, yeah, to take documentation with participants. So let's.
Pak Hedi. I think
Say cheese.
start now.
Yep, okay. Maybe Nadia minta tolong juga ya, Nat. Oke. Oke. Wah, 3, 3, 2, 1, action. Okay. Maybe one more. 1, 2, 3. Oke. Apakah sudah capture, Nat?
Udah.
Okay,
Will
thank
you
you.
be able to post me in?
Terima kasih banyak.
Thank you, Janet.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much
See you
for
then.
inviting me. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Yeah.
Take care. Bye.
And
Okay, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.